Hi everyone, my name is Sama and welcome to Mediocre Guidance. At the risk of being a Debbie Downer, I think it is important to discuss the issues that are pushing our envelope so far that we are at a point in our lives where we're like, is this all there is? And when will this end? Because it honestly does feel like there is no end in sight at times. Like we are on this constant hamster wheel just trying to make it to the next payday. I touched on the cost of living crisis in my last video, but to all of you who are working multiple jobs or earning at or near minimum wage, you deserve a Nobel Peace Prize for perseverance and dedication to providing for your families. It's incredible what the human spirit is capable of when it comes to survival, but were we just born to survive? Is this all there is for the rest of our lives and then we just die? Amidst all this is what we can't seem to get enough of, and that is social media. Originally created with what I hope was the good intention of connecting people around the world, my feed nowadays is honestly just inundated with ads. Yet, I'm still on there, scrolling to find anything that will numb the boredom, stress, or straight-up pain of daily existence. These apps are engineered to be super addictive and are fine-tuned to our individual vulnerabilities for the sake of generating sales for companies that do not care about us. I'll say it again, whatever sweet nothings they put in their content, the companies that we see the most frequent ads for want our money at whatever cost it is to our personal health, wealth, and well-being. If we're stressed about money, maybe you spent more than you meant to on frivolous shopping, please keep in mind that social media apps are literally built to break down our self-control mechanisms and encourage impulse shopping. So please be kind to yourself when you're indulging in self-blame or kicking yourself for spending too much on things you don't need. I dare say that it kind of wasn't your fault. You were led to do so in a very insidious, subliminal way. I want you to consider the part of you that wants to save for retirement, or to be able to take your kids on a vacation, or pay off your debt. Just any financial goal that would bring you peace of mind if you were to achieve it. That part of you that wants to save more than anything, social media is actively trying to destroy your desire for delayed gratification and self-discipline and self-regulation. That is their goal, and that is what their developers are paid to do. On top of that, the ads we see are mainly for companies that are key contributors to polluting our planet and exploiting laborers. Lastly, do you ever actually feel any better once you finally pry yourself away from the screen? Does social media increase your self-esteem? Do you feel more grounded, connected, or loved for who you are right now in this moment, just as you are? For me, that's a hard no. I don't know about you guys, but I feel downright fugly and untalented and unaccomplished when I get off Instagram. Have you also ever noticed how angry everyone is on social media? This includes cancel culture, but not just that. I mean in general. You can say anything on there that could even be super nice, but if there are enough eyeballs on it, there's always some dude who just wants to pick a fight. Unfortunately, social media loves fighting and anger. We all know that negative expression is louder than positive expression. Because of this, the algorithm prioritizes controversy, unhealthy debate, and just pushing your buttons any way it can, because it equals more engagement, less self-regulation, and therefore more money for them. Hello, Editing Sama here. I realized after I recorded this section about angry people on social media, I thought it was like an original thought that came from my genius brain, but no, it is actually covered quite in depth in a book that I mentioned literally seconds from now called Stolen Focus by Johann Hari, and I basically ended up paraphrasing it. So yes, credit to him, not to me. Thank you. Okay, so all that being said, I actually did not set up any social media accounts for Mediocre Guidance because the thought of it just made me feel gross. I can't speak up against the ills of social media and then sit here and ask you to follow me. Therefore, I am exclusively on YouTube for the time being because I think it is one of the only platforms that has a shred of integrity left since they offer a paid subscription model. Let me explain. As mentioned in the book Stolen Focus by Johann Hari, if social media companies offered a paid subscription model to use them, just like you have to pay to use Netflix or any other streaming service, then this would turn the tables and put us as users in control. Our wants and needs would trump those of advertisers and would put pressure on developers to service in a way that actually preserves our happiness, since we would basically become the primary source of revenue. Regardless, I'm sure more veteran content creators have also had to deal with the dark side of YouTube, but for now, I am in my ignorant bubble and happy to be here. We'll see if I sell out in the future. I painted this very depressing picture for you all. Sorry! All my tirades are to set the stage as we go forward. 1, because I really needed to just get it all off my chest. And 2, to maybe inspire you to reflect a little more on the system surrounding us and how they are hardly looking out for our best interest. However, I do have some good news. There is a very powerful force that is looking out for our best interest, and guess what? It can see past, present, and future, and it knows that we are going to be okay. Not just okay, we are going to be filled with joy and peace and love and all those fuzzy feelings, for everything around us and all this bullshit we've been going through is just going to be over. And even better, this outcome is guaranteed. Let's meet this force right now. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. If this is the only message you take away from my channel, then my job is done. This particular paragraph always gets me right in the feels. It is so simple but immensely powerful, and it honestly brings tears to my eyes every time I read it. Okay, so when we see the phrases, it's a required course, only the time you take is voluntary, that just means that the messages in ACIM are inevitable, but not in a bad way, because if it doesn't resonate with you right now, or you're not in a place in your life where you feel receptive to this kind of spirituality, you can absolutely 100% forget about it and go on with your life. That is your right and what we consider free will. However, the next line says that despite our free will, you cannot establish the curriculum, meaning that, as I mentioned earlier, the outcome is guaranteed and that you can't change the inevitable. This is not to scare you and make you feel like you have no control, because you do, and that control is when you want to open yourself up to the material contained within. However, what it does mean is that no matter where you're at or how effed up you think you are in your life, you cannot mess up the curriculum. You cannot mess up what is in A Course in Miracles. You essentially cannot inadvertently do anything to get this wrong for yourself. As we go on, you will see that the course and the messages within are protected in a way, and they will stay intact no matter what happens, regardless of your interference, if you want to think of it that way, or any actions that you take. Nothing can pervert or corrupt the material that is in ACIM, which is an interesting thought considering what has happened to other major organized religions, historically speaking. Next is, the course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So love in this context is, of course, the unconditional love of God, or a higher power that we associate to God, right? We always think that the love of God is beyond anything that we could ever know. And honestly, I don't think as humans we can even imagine what that would feel like, because the love we experience in our lifetimes is flawed and conditional. We receive and learn about love through other humans and the people we interact with, and a lot of times that's a bumpy ride, right? It is not the consistent love that we associate with unconditional love. However, that doesn't mean that unconditional love that we yearn for and is a characteristic of God is absent in our lives. It just means that we are not aware of it, or have basically blocked it out due to unconscious or conscious fears. So what the message here is saying is that just because you're not aware of it doesn't mean that unconditional love doesn't exist. We just haven't learned to tune into it. So just because you block something out of your awareness, that doesn't mean it's not there, right? I mean, think of anyone you don't live with or see on a daily basis. Just because you don't see them doesn't mean they don't exist and that they're not walking around on this earth. They are just out of your awareness. Next is, the opposite of fear is love, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. So we're used to duality in our lives, right? Hot and cold, skinny and fat, young and old. So everything has its opposite. As such, in our world, in our frame of reference, we could think of love on one end of the spectrum and fear on the other. And we're usually gliding somewhere along that scale as we go through life. However, in the realm of God, everything is one. So you may have heard the concept of oneness in spiritual circles. if everything is one, how can there be polar opposites, which would imply two things, right? I hope that makes sense. So in a place where everything is one, you cannot have opposites living together. It's not possible. One has to go. So this is what God is saying, that logic is correct. What is all-encompassing can have no opposite. Therefore, this course can be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. This is referring to love, the love of God, which is beyond our current understanding of love. So for the purposes of today, let's say love is everything we consider to be good and holy and positive. Nothing unreal exists. This is referring to fear, what we associate as negativity. So this is actually quite an encouraging message, because if you look historically or even today at religions will say that love and fear do exist in the same space, in the realm of God. And of course, fear is usually expressed as guilt or shame or angering God, right? You're disappointing God or you're making God angry. But what this message is saying is that those negative things are unreal. They don't exist because they cannot exist in the presence of love, the love of God. So if love cannot be threatened and fear does not actually exist, fear must be an illusion, right? Because we're still seeing and experiencing fear. Struggle and suffering is a part of our experience. But if it's not real, then it must be an illusion. So then that means love is all there is. And as mentioned earlier, love is your natural inheritance and your birthright. Meaning your experience of love is what you were created to experience and dwell in permanently and forever. Therein lies the peace of God. If there are some parts that aren't clear to you or you're having trouble understanding some of the concepts I've presented in this section, don't panic. The introduction is truly just a summary of what's to come. Consider it a taster or a sampling of what ACIM is all about. We will definitely be going much deeper into all the themes presented here as part of our journey together. So I thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Okay, you can't do that. I said you can sit anywhere but on the paper. Please don't chew on this. Now, please. Ah!